ONDC is gonna be the next UPI movement of India. ONDC, we will unlock next $100 billion in 3 years. So e-commerce economy will become $170 billion.
It's like mind-boggling.
We are democratizing digital commerce and we are making it interoperable. We are unbundling the buy side and the sell side primarily.
It's like next level of power that you're opening up.
It will change the way the commerce happens.
It's like so powerful to believe upon.
I mean, I just can't imagine. I don't have words to put into that.
Let's try to imagine our world today without UPI in it. Or let's imagine without Aadhaar in it. I mean, आज हम डे टू डे में जितनी बार UPI, आधार, GST इनका यूज करते हैं, अगर ये नहीं होता तो क्या होता? क्या जितना कॉमर्स आज हो पा रहा है वैसा होता? क्या जितना डिजिटाइजेशन इंडिया में हुआ वो हो पाता? बट ये तो अभी स्टार्ट है इंडिया की कहानी की. एक और बड़ा पावरफुल जर्नी बनने जा रहा है जो मैं पिछले कुछ सालों से अपने सामने होते देख रहा हूं. ONDC. जितना मैं अभी तक समझ पाया हूं ONDC को, यह शायद UPI, आधार, GST से भी बड़ा होगा. है क्या ONDC? कैसे बदलेगा ये हमारी लाइफ्स को? कैसे इसका इंपैक्ट पड़ेगा इंडिया में और कैसे ये इंडिया की रॉकेट शिप में एक बूस्टर बनेगा? आज इसी पे हम बात करेंगे हमारे इस शो में हमारे गेस्ट के साथ. आज के जो हमारे गेस्ट हैं, he is a seasoned finance professional. He's worked with companies like Zomato, ITC, etc. But is now part of ONDC, something which is an initiative by Government of India, and it's like so powerful to imagine. So let's welcome our guest today, Anjani. Hey Anjani, welcome on the show.
Thanks Ankit for having me on your show today, and very powerful introduction for myself. I also did not realize that that brings so much of weightage to my profile. Thanks for having me here, and I'll make all my attempts to make this a meaningful discussion for you and your audience. Let's hope for the best.
Absolutely. At least, Anjani, what you're trying to build, what you're part of is something so powerful, something which I fundamentally believe going to change how India do commerce. And it's like so refreshing to hear, insights today from you. I would love to have, a round of discussion with you.
Absolutely. So ONDC is going to be the next UPI movement of India. And that's what we say, that ab har business ke liye Bharat khulega.
Wow.
Yeah.
So let's start. मैं इसको इस ढंग से समझ रहा हूँ कि आज जब हम पहले के फेजेस में, जैसे UPI हम अक्सर शायद कंपेयर करना चाहते हैं. UPI में ये चीज बहुत आसान हो गई थी. हम किसी भी बैंक, किसी भी एप्लीकेशन से पे कर रहे हैं और किसी भी पर्सन को वो किसी भी एप्लीकेशन पे, किसी भी बैंक पे है. ये जो इंटरऑपरेबिलिटी जो मैनेज की गई थी, ONDC इसे कॉमर्स के लिए कर रहा है.
Absolutely. That's what my managing director, Mr. Thampikoshi, always says. He says two favorite statement, right? And I think he tells this to me every day in office. Anything which is catalogable and digitizable has a play on ONDC.
Oh, wow.
आप अगर कोई भी चीज का SKU बना सकते हैं, उसको कैटलॉग बना सकते हैं ना, वो हम डिजिटली ट्रांजेक्ट करा देंगे. Second, ONDC is the next UPI movement of India. When UPI came, I believe it took almost 6 years for them to fly. The concept got set, the processes got made. Ultimately, that breakthrough happened around 5 to 6 years later. Right?
Yep.
Aadhaar took 10 years.
Yep.
UPI took 6 years. ONDC will not take more than 2 to 3 years.
Wow.
Right? ONDC will be the next UPI movement of India. And it will democratize commerce not only in India but in the world. UPI has already started crossing boundaries beyond India. You can you can pay for your ticket to Eiffel Tower by scanning a QR code in Indian rupees. Dubai mein you can now use a QR code. Right?
Yep.
ONDC is also gonna be beyond India.
Wow.
How far are we? Very, very near. You would be amazed to know that we have already set up the funnel with Singapore being a buyer and India being a seller.
Oh,
so
wow.
Now sitting in Singapore using Proxtera as a buyer application, it's a native application of Singapore.
Okay.
Using Proxtera as a buyer application, you can buy goods from India.
Amazing.
What is the benefit? It will just explode the digital commerce economy. Today, digital commerce economy, to my estimate, is around $70 billion. with the advent and success of ONDC, we will unlock next $100 billion in 3 years. So e-commerce economy will become 170 billion dollar.
Wow.
Now with exports scaling up, what is the benefit? The sellers of India will have buyers across. Today they struggle. Demand of Indian artisan product or the social sector of India, जो छोटे-छोटे artisans है who make very beautiful pots and potteries and etc. They will have more buyers, and India excels in handicraft products, right? We will be uplifting livelihood of so many people.
Yep.
And also imagine that what the potential of larger impact it can have on the macroeconomics. Our export deficit can come down significantly with this.
Interesting. This, your every statement is bringing me to so many questions. This is like so powerful and so intriguing at the same time. And I'll just keep on probably asking more. See, one सबसे important यहाँ पर मैं यूपीआई से रिलेट करके इसको जैसे देख पा रहा हूं कि यूपीआई के 2 सबसे बड़े चेंजेस है एज अ कंज्यूमर, एज अ एंड यूजर। यूपीआई ने 2 बहुत बड़े चेंजेस किए थे। सबसे पहला तो इंटरऑपरेबिलिटी तो जो थी, मैं किसी को भी किसी भी नंबर्स पे किसी पे भी उस पे कर सकता हूं। और दूसरा एक बहुत बड़ा फैक्टर यूपीआई जो इंट्रोड्यूस किया था, यूपीआई ने जो चार्जेस थे, बैंक चार्जेस, क्रेडिट कार्ड के 2, 4, 5% तक जो चार्जेस होते हैं वो खत्म किया। इंडिया के लिए एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट मोमेंट था, क्योंकि आई रिमेंबर, और आप भी ये चीज विटनेस किए होंगे, 10 साल पहले आज जब हम क्रेडिट कार्ड से कहीं पेमेंट करने जाते थे तो मर्चेंट कहता 2% एक्स्ट्रा लूंगा। ये मोमेंट खत्म हुआ था जब यूपीआई आया। आज प्रैक्टिकली मैंने तो कैश रखना बंद कर दिया है। मैं सारे दिन के सारे पेमेंट जो मैं कैश के अलावा अभी यूपीआई से करता हूँ, 20-20 रुपए की पेमेंट करता हूँ। और ये मैं देख पा रहा हूं कि यहां जैसे आपने बताया कि मार्जिन्स बहुत स्क्वीज होंगे, मतलब एटलीस्ट डेमोक्रेटाइज होंगे, नॉट स्क्वीज इज द राइट वर्ड, आई थिंक डेमोक्रेटाइज इज द राइट वर्ड।
करेक्ट होंगे, आई थिंक मार्जिन वुड बी करेक्ट होंगे। टुडेस मार्जिन स्ट्रक्चर इज इनकरेक्ट एंड आई एम सेंटिमेंटल अबाउट दैट।
एब्सोल्युटली। ये और साथ साथ में इंटरऑपरेबिलिटी जो यहां पर आती है, ये दोनों मिलाकर एक्चुअली ये यूपीआई मूवमेंट बनने जा रहा है।
एब्सोल्युटली। सो आप ऐसा सोचो कि डिजिटल कॉमर्स के 4 ब्रॉड पिलर्स होते हैं।
अच्छा, क्या-क्या?
बायर साइड journey, the seller side journey, the logistics journey, and the payments journey.
अच्छा,
आप गवर्नमेंट का nobody, that's my personal opinion, I believe कि गवर्नमेंट के विजन में ये है कि ये चारों को सॉल्व करना है।
अच्छा,
उन्होंने यूपीआई के थ्रू पेमेंट तो सॉल्व कर दिया है, पूरा सीमलेस हो गया है। Nobody imagined कि in a cash transaction driven economy of India, 60% of transaction will be digital. Nobody ever imagined that, right? Now government has 3 more pillars to solve. ONDC is the root. Now when in very short time when ONDC becomes a success, and this natural marriage, when we plug both the puzzles of ONDC plus UPI, the world will be very, very different.
Absolutely. Absolutely. अब इसको मैं एक बार कंज्यूमर के साइड पे ले जाता हूं। एक कंज्यूमर के साइड में जैसे आपने बताया कि एक फैक्टर आ रहा है कि मुझे कम प्राइसेस पे मिलने लगे, क्योंकि मर्चेंट्स यहां पर स्टिल इज एबल टू मेक बेटर मार्जिन्स, वो डिस्काउंट बेटर दे सकेगा, एटसेट्रा एटसेट्रा वुड हैपन। ये शायद मेरे लिए अपॉर्चुनिटीज भी बढ़ा देगा, बिकॉज लॉट ऑफ स्मॉल मर्चेंट वुड बी एबल टू गेट ऑन द प्लेटफॉर्म। मैं खुद भी एक प्लेटफॉर्म डिपेंडेंट नहीं हूं एक कंज्यूमर की तरह से।
Absolutely.
क्योंकि मैं अब जिस प्लेटफॉर्म पे हूं पूरे नेटवर्क से कनेक्टेड है, एंड देयर लाइक हंड्रेड्स थाउजेंड्स मिलियंस ऑफ पीपल प्रोबब्ली कनेक्टेड देयर। तो ये हर कंज्यूमर के लिए अपॉर्चुनिटीज को भी बहुत बड़ा कर रहा है।
Yes, the consumer or the customer will have access to more and more products and assortment.
Interesting.
Today, if I have to buy, say, let's take Kanjivaram sari, right? Today, if I have to buy a Kanjivaram sari, I do not know where do I go and buy. I am left at the disposal of existing 3 or 4 applications or platform who deal in fashion. India is an oligopoly market today. Whether you take ride hailing, only 3 applications, broadly 2 of them control majority of the market. Food is a completely duopoly market. Only 2 players controlling the entire food delivery ecosystem. Right? Fashion, again, 2 or 3 players control 95%, 96% of the ecosystem. I am dependent on them. Can a Kanjivaram sari weaver come on digital commerce and transact at his whims and fancies? Yes.
Interesting.
So I can sit in Calcutta, buy a Kanjivaram sari digitally. Is it possible today? we will have to check whether a Kanjivaram sari inventory is available only in these 3 platforms or not.
And also, a lot of time, as a consumer, I feel that, or probably face that often, that I'm probably at disposable of the platform that what Kanjivaram sari is going to show to me.
Absolutely.
And generally these sellers would be probably prioritizing, these platforms would be prioritizing more of margins on their side, जो ज़्यादा उनको पैसे बना कर दे रहे, rather than good quality and etc. और मैं जब मुझे visibility ही नहीं मिलती, मैं आज कोई प्लेटफॉर्म पे जाता हूँ जो बेस्ट शायद कांजीवरम साड़ी है, जो आज ऑथेंटिक उसमें बन रहे हैं, मैं उनको देख ही नहीं पा रहा हूँ आज तो,
क्योंकि वो मार्जिन नहीं दे रहे,
वो मार्जिन नहीं दे रहे,
बिकॉज दे हैव टू मैक्सिमाइज द इंटरेस्ट ऑफ देयर पर्सनल स्टेक होल्डर्स, जो उनके इन्वेस्टर्स है, उनके P&L प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी उनको फास्ट ट्रैक करना है. ऑल दिस प्लेटफॉर्म हैव अ मिशन टू फास्ट ट्रैक देयर पाथ थ्रू प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी. तभी IPO आएगा, तभी वो पैसे बनाएंगे, बिकॉज टुडे एवरीबडी इज बर्निंग humongously. ONDC as a central orchestrator has no vested interest. I have preference for nobody. I am just an enabler. I don't want to earn money. Who am I? I am a Section 8 company under DPIIT. I am a not-for-profit organization. I don't have any intention to earn money at all, right?
Interesting.
So I am a government service. I am a public utility service. See it from that lens.
I think people would be able to understand it's like Aadhaar, UPI, and then you have, the ONDC in the next rank.
क्या आधार कभी भी डेटा मोनेटाइज करेगा क्या? आधार के पास जो डेटा है दैट इज गोल्ड. मतलब पूरा डेमोग्राफिक प्रोफाइल हमारा. विल आधार एवर मोनेटाइज दैट? नो. If Aadhaar has to, okay, let me put it this way, Aadhaar will monetize or may actually be currently monetizing. That's an assumption, a hypothesis I'm taking. But for what? They are monetizing, or they would want to monetize only to cover their administrative costs and be self-sustainable. And not be a burden on government or on taxpayers' money. From whom will they charge? Somebody who is using their database in a regularized and an authentic, in a legal way. For example, banks, they need to do KYC. So banks pay for that cost. ONDC will ONDC be free forever? Absolutely no. Let me be very vocal about that. The objective of ONDC at this stage is not to charge any money to anybody, because we are setting the context. We are making the concept more visible to everybody.
You're making the platform protocol available to everybody.
Yes, we are solving for the problem first. ONDC may come up with a commercial model. When? I do not know. In what form? I do not know. But I know about one thing very clearly. Objective will be only to cover the administrative cost which ONDC is incurring today and be self-sustainable. So that we do not rely on government support or somebody external support to run our business, our day-to-day operation. What would be the extent of day-to-day operation or the cost of day-to-day operation? Very, very negligible. Structurally, we are a very lean company of say 100, 120 people. We do not need more people because we do not run the operation. So we will never have a very heavy operation team or an employee base. I do not need a fancy office because I don't have people to sit in those offices. It's an autopilot mode. So my cost is very, very restricted to very few salary cost and my day-to-day office expenditure around staff welfare and office rental. कितना cost आ जाएगा उसका?
Actually, I've been to your office. So what I felt now at ONDC office, it's not the energy, the vibes wasn't like, I mean, to be truthful, like a sarkari office, and the extra, or the lavishness wasn't there. It was really, really like a startup maybe, or that energy with a systematic approach. That's what I felt, when at ONDC office.
We are a startup. We are not a sarkari organization at all. Right? By the way, let me share one very interesting information. I don't have anything for any political party. I'm very, very neutral with any of the political parties of India. But I believe there has been a major shift. And I would love to be a sarkari office now. Because due to being associated with ONDC and DPIIT being our promoter, we often go to DPIIT office, which comes under Ministry of Commerce. Ankit, let me tell you, and I have seen how life works in a legacy organization, which is a 110-year-old organization, and a very hyper, fast-paced digital commerce ecosystem where everybody's on toes, everybody's on fire, right? I've seen those two lives very, very closely, first-hand experience. I also have a first-hand experience of operating into a DPIIT office now.
Acha.
If you ask me which one is the most agile and best, I would say a Sarkari office.
Oh, wow.
Today, a secretary cadre gentleman is working till 11 p.m. on the every day in a Sarkari office. And that's more professional, more value-driven, more output-oriented than any of the business houses in India. The concept has changed completely. They have got one there, it's a good sign. I'm saying this is in a positive sense that the pressure for them to deliver is even more because they are answerable to citizens of India, while the corporate houses are answerable only to customers of India. That's a very big difference between a citizen and a customer.
Yep. And I think that reflects in the initiatives that's been driven in last many years. I think one of the fundamental change that India has brought in, which include also ONDC, there's a massive focus around building this digital infrastructure.
Absolutely.
All the GST, UPI, Aadhaar we spoke about are part of that, and seems like such a deep enabler. I mean, मुझे लगता है आज जो कॉमर्स भी ड्राइव हो रहा है, अगर यूपीआई नहीं होता तो शायद इतना ड्राइव नहीं हो रहा था, जितने ट्रांजैक्शंस हम लोग देखते हैं, अगर वो पॉसिबल ही नहीं होता. और मैं अभी ये सीरियसली इमेजिन करने की कोशिश कर रहा हूं, शायद मैं कर भी ना पाऊं, यूपीआई के बाद इतना बड़ा जंप, आधार के बाद इतना बड़ा जंप, व्हाट ओएनडीसी कैन ब्रिंग अस. आई मीन दिस इज लाइक रियली अनइमेजिनेबल राइट नाउ. दिस इज लाइक माइंड बॉगलिंग.
माय वाइफ ऑलवेज आस्क्ड मी कि क्या होगा इंडिया का, आप लोग जो कर रहे हो, मतलब ये तो बहुत कुछ कर जाएगा. सो I always tell my wife that given an opportunity and if I had a superpower or if I had a time machine, I would want to go and see what's happening in 2030. I don't want to live in 2024, 25 at all. I'm just impatient to see what's happening in 2030. Because commerce pura change ho chuka hoga.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
The advent of digitization, automation, layering it with AI, ML, layering that with Jain AI and ML. I mean, I just can't imagine. I don't have words to put into that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But एक बार थोड़ा सा एक स्टेप पीछे चलते हैं, वापस ये पूछते हैं कि I'm able to see all the benefits that's gonna come with it. But इतनी दूर देखने के लिए भी, इतने दूर का सोचने के लिए भी, where did it all started from? What was the initial problem that ONDC was trying to solve?
See, the birth of ONDC happened during COVID times. If we recall, during that Black Swan event, entire supply chain globally had come to a halt. Right? There were goods with the people. I mean to say, supply was there with the supplier, demand was there with the buyer, but nobody was able to communicate to each other. The centralized supply chain system of India had completely collapsed. Right? If you imagine, if I have to buy a packet of Atta, Ashirwad Atta of ITC, and will that get transported from, say, Uluberia or say Coimbatore, which is the central warehouse of ITC, and get connected to me directly at my house. During COVID, that was not possible at all. Infrastructure, everything was there, but restrictions made it completely jeopardized that. The task at hand of government of India was, how do I supply essentials to the customer and keep the economy as well as livelihood both moving? Because we could not have just left economy, the country would have collapsed. At the same time, livelihoods bhi bachani thi, otherwise log mar jayenge. We realized the local supply chain will have to function, the centralized can't function. Right? There are too many restrictions on movement. Now, how do I contact my kirana store and tell him I want an atta? How do I know? Or how do a local kirana store say that, hey, you want an atta? Do I know that? I do not. I have an atta. Do you know that? No, you do not. This conversation was broken. And hence we said, in a larger interest of public, that how do I enable local suppliers? Then we realized the local suppliers are not there on digital commerce. They do not have a digital catalog.
Yeah.
They do not know how to operate on digital commerce.
Yeah.
They're not trained to operate on a digital commerce. That opened up eye of many people in the ministry. That something is completely broken.
Wow.
E-commerce is happening, but is it happening at the right scale? Absolutely, maybe not. Because जो इंडिया का सबसे बड़ा इंजन है सप्लाई का, the 90% of MSMEs and smaller sellers, they are still not enabled on digital commerce. And hence this idea of democratizing digital commerce came, that can I bring every seller of India on e-commerce? That's a mission of India. इंडिया का हर एक व्यापारी इंटरनेट पे होना चाहिए.
Wow. Absolutely. This is so powerful. अब मतलब what has been the journey so far? मतलब that was you explained कि ये शुरू कहाँ से हुआ, वहाँ से अभी तक की कहानी क्या है?
So I was not there in the company then, but what I'm told by my existing teammates, and that gives me goosebumps. A very, very interesting story. They say that within 1.5 years, ONDC was first with QCI, the Quality Control of India central body. They germinated the idea, and the whiteboarding was done in their office.
Acha.
Right? Mr. Thampi Koshi, who is a stalwart when it comes to digitizing India, he's the man who made NSDL. He digitized the entire depository of India. Mr. Nitin Mishra, who's the current CTO of ONDC, he was the chief architecture of GST.
Wow.
Right? Mr. Nandan Nelikani, who's the chairman of advisory board of ONDC, is known as CTO of India.
Yeah.
These set of very, very learned and very, very senior people probably sat down and did the first level of whiteboarding that how do we solve this, right? Many options were there. We could have introduced law in India, right? But what would happen then? Our courtrooms would be flooded with even more cases. Yesterday I was reading somewhere that today high courts have got 80,000 cases pending, which is 30-year-old. Right? ONDC law around commerce would just add on few thousands there. Right? The Westerns and the Americans have already taken an approach of introducing digital laws, basically various laws to control this monopolistic or oligopolistic market. India could have also easily done that. China took a dictatorship position, right? India could have taken a dictatorship position. However, this set of people realized that this may not be a scalable and a sustainable model. Right? And hence, introducing law may not be right. It may not actually be an ethical model also. Why should government of India control how a business would happen in India? Government of India is supposed to be an enabler rather than a controller. So we have to enable business rather than control or restrict business. Law, fundamentally, my opinion, laws are restricting things. It never enable things. So law controls or restrict malpractices. What's happening in digital commerce today is absolutely not malpractice or something illegal. So there's no need of law. There are already enough laws around digital commerce. Why to add one more layer? Right? And hence we decided, or we came up with an idea that technology is a solution to that. Right? And India already had 2 or 3 very successful output in digital technology-led solution, which is around Aadhaar, UPI, FASTag, very, very successful
implementations.
And then that gave lot of confidence कि यार टेक्नोलॉजी को यूज करके एक और बड़ा चीज बनाते हैं एंड इसको परमानेंटली सॉल्व करते हैं, नॉट ओनली फॉर इंडिया बट फॉर वर्ल्ड. Right? Let's solve it for globe altogether. Did we write any astronomical first-hand code or something magic was done? No. ONDC has not used any fancy or something astronomical or very, very complex codes at all. What we have leveraged or used is something which was existing even before I was born. Open data, open network, right? Entire internet is built on open network. HTTP is nothing but an open network. UPI is nothing but an open network. SMS is nothing but an open network. Email, IMPS is nothing but an open network. Today, you can send an email from any application to any application without worrying about anything. Do you worry about customer experience at all? No.
Yeah, totally.
Right? Do you worry about liabilities? No. So ONDC is nothing but similar to that. ONDC is HTTP of digital commerce. It's a UPI of commerce. Right? And hence we said that let's leverage open source codes to build and utilize the same platform to build something common.
Got it.
My managing director, Mr. Koshi, also says something very interesting, that ONDC is nothing but the club owner.
Okay. How this works?
So we are nothing, we are nobody, and we will not control commerce at all.
Achha.
We are just the club owner. Right? We invite everybody. Entry to this club is on invitation. It's at this stage it is not free flow because the hygiene of the club needs to be maintained. So I am the club owner. I will only set the basic fundamental guardrails on how you can participate in this club.
Okay.
But I will not put any restriction on potential of you enjoying in this club. It's left to your innovation how you want to enjoy the most in this club. Right? I will just provide you a common room where buyer and seller can come together and do whatever you want. It's up to your innovation how you can maximize or extract most out of each other. We will never control commerce.
Interesting. And now talking about that aspect of it, controlling and not controlling, one of the key value, a lot of existing platform, existing application systems provide is a trust in terms of whom you're dealing with, etc. You said, यहाँ पर transaction level price या negotiation या contract possible है, but at the same time मैं जब ये देखता हूँ कि मुझे ट्रांजैक्शन लेवल क्यों वरी करना. आज जैसे मैं एक प्लेटफॉर्म अगर ई-कॉमर्स प्लेटफॉर्म जानता हूँ तो मुझे पता है कि ये इतने में डिलीवर करेगा, एक स्टैंडर्डाइजेशन है, मैं कोई भी प्रोडक्ट मंगाऊँ मेरा एक स्टैंडर्ड एक्सपीरियंस आता है. लेकिन जब ONDC आता है तो ये एक बहुत बड़ा क्वेश्चन आ जाता है कि ये जब स्टैंडर्ड एक्सपीरियंस नहीं तो कैसे वर्क करेगा, यहाँ ट्रस्ट कैसे आएगा.
गवर्नमेंट से बड़ा ट्रस्ट किसका है? गवर्नमेंट इज एपेक्स टुडे,
बट गवर्नमेंट तो सिर्फ एक प्रोटोकॉल बना रही है ना. एट द एंड में कोई एक सेलर से खरीद रहा हूँ,
बट समबडी इज ऑर्केस्ट्रेटिंग दैट. ONDC is an orchestrator. It is not that we have just made a protocol and we have exited the room.
Acha.
We are still orchestrating that.
Got it.
There's a team who continuously monitors the performance and the health of transaction which is happening on the network. We do not collect any price sensitive or business confidential informations at all. But we also collect at an aggregated level what is the level of or what is the quality of transaction which is happening. Right? I would not know that identity of the person who has brought the product. I would not know identity of the product which has been sold. I would not know that value at which this transaction is happening. I don't need to know. What will I do by knowing the value of the transaction? But I know somebody called person X has purchased a product Y which was delivered in X period and X many time the delivery has failed or X many time the complaints have been. Those information I have. And we work with all the network participants in a collaborative way to solve for the gaps. Today, the fulfillment information is stored in a silo with all the platforms. Okay. Nobody knows what is an industry benchmark. I mean, some consultant gives the industry benchmark by doing some telecalling. I do not trust on that. What is the authenticity of that data? Nobody gives their accurate data ever. If you ask me Zomato and some analyst calls Zomato, अच्छा आपका क्या है, वो कोई नहीं बताएगा आपको. They will give you some indicative range. The benefit is that in a network we accumulate all the data at an aggregated level without losing out any identity. Achha. And then we know that which ecosystem participant is performing how, and we give them a value addition service. That in your industry, your peers are performing at this level, you are at this level, why don't you improve your things better? And we also go down, dirty our hands and solve for them. We help them diagnose what's the problem. And all these data are already made public. You go into ONDC website, there's something called ONDC data. You click on that, all this information which I'm talking about is already made public to everybody. We don't want to store any data or hide anything. Today you can go and see how many transactions are happening in ONDC, in which geography, in which cohort at a district level, from where the supply is coming, where the supply is going, everything is visible and made public.
Interesting.
Do you know Zomato में कहाँ पे और से Flipkart में कहाँ से कहाँ क्या माल जा रहा है? Nobody knows. ONDC is being transparent.
Interesting.
Because we want people to use this analytical dashboard to make their business. Today, the sophisticated dashboards are restricted only to very large players who have got capital to invest and do data analysis. We are doing it for MSMEs. We know MSME can never make a complex dashboard which can solve for them.
Amazing.
Right?
Amazing. So it's not just network, it's also the data, it's also the analytics, insights, which is actually made public with this platform.
So that MSMEs can grow their business. We will do, so let me put it this way, ONDC will do everything required to ensure that MSMEs of India grows.
Wow. So this is so powerful because, my first perception, I did not know about this part of it. I thought, you're enabling by making it an open network, but at the same time, you're enabling also at a different layers. It's not just one layer, which is a network where you're connecting everybody. It's also the layer where you're giving me insights as a MSME, and I'm able to use that insight to really understand कैसे बनाना है आगे धंधे को कैसे grow करना है.
So absolutely. And when we see this data, and whenever I go to any client meeting, I always get asked this question, that who will own the customer experience? What is the trust on the network? Couple of points. When we see data, in a commerce fulfillment, there may be a lot of metrics, but I think some of the key metrics are TAT, the on time in full, and time taken to deliver the product, right? We have seen that we are benchmarked to industry in most of the cases.
Wow.
Right? In food ecosystem, we are better than the industry platforms who have still not joined the network in terms of time to deliver.
Interesting.
Our average time to deliver food on ONDC network is between 34 to 35 minutes.
Wow.
In Bangalore, recently, that's an independent report done by Economic Times. In Bangalore, ONDC has already captured 20% market share in food delivery.
20% market share already done?
Yes.
Wow.
And Bangalore is the top contributing market to India in the food delivery ecosystem.
Amazing.
And we have done this in 2 months of launching Bangalore.
Amazing.
Why this is happening? Are we doing something different? No. People are finding value proposition. Their experience is up to the mark. I am not saying I don't have headroom to improve. I have huge headroom to improve even in operational metrics. But people are satisfied. If I were to take an example, if I'm already delivering at 98% operational metrics and a platform is delivering at 99%, the price for that incremental 1% is huge.
Absolutely.
Is a customer willing to pay the premium? Is a question we need to ask India.
Absolutely.
Right? And that helps us gain the market share. So that's how the trust of the network is demonstrated by the data. I'm not saying anything. That's the data saying. Second, we also realize that we are responsible to what's happening on the network. Ultimately, we are the gatekeepers and the orchestrator. A lot of solutions are being done to ensure that there is no fraud happening on the network and the quality of the seller and the buyer are very genuine. Right?
Got it.
2 things. One is IGM, issue and grievance management.
Okay.
This is one of the mandatory API which is already built in ONDC, and every participant who joins ONDC has to mandatorily enable this IGM API. What does this mean? This is basically an integration and seamless conversation of all the complaint that gets raised on a application. When a buyer buys a product, he will have to go and raise the complaint on the buyer application only. Because for him, he is buying from Ola. He would not know who's the seller application behind that. But is Ola solving for the problem even in today's world? No, they are not. They are also passing on the information to the end seller.
Yep.
So with this API, all this conversation around complaint to and fro happens seamlessly and giving you industry benchmarked experience around that. Coming to the liability front, that who bears the loss if something goes wrong? That's made available on our website today. That ONDC will help you solve for the problem. If not, we will fund it. We will pay for the losses if nobody is solving for it. Experience is not a problem at all. And if you go on our website and if you are still agitated with the service, you can log a complaint directly to ONDC. ONDC will ensure that the complaint is solved.
Interesting.
So we are not shying away from solving for customer liability or experience at all. We know the commerce will be successful only when the customer is happy.
Yeah.
So we will do everything that is required to ensure customer redressal is seamless. Right?
So let me ask a very naive question. Let's assume I'm a consumer who's buying from a buyer app on a ONDC network. I bought a good which was sold by some seller in Bangalore, and I eventually never received the good.
Yeah,
which happens on e-commerce platform many of the time. Who would I reach out to complain?
You will go to the buyer application. You will log a complaint that will get relayed to the seller through seller application and ONDC gateway seamlessly because an API is already integrated. Think from a point of view that in this transaction, who could be at fault? The seller who may not have parceled the goods, the seller application, or I will say the logistics service provider who received the good but did not deliver it to you. Who owns the logistics? The seller application, because he is controlling who will be the logistics service provider. Does buyer application has any role in this? Absolutely not. He is no visible and he is not touching the ecosystem at all. He's just an enabler. Why should buyer application have any liability at all?
Absolutely.
So network absolves buyer application from this liability completely. At the end, ONDC is responsible because some fraud happens or something goes wrong. We as a government will take care of this buyer at the day end. So the first level of liability or to fulfill the liability is with the seller. If a seller fails to fulfill the liability, seller application will have to make good for it because he onboarded that seller. If a fraudster is there in his house, he will have to be accountable. At the day end, I am still there.
Interesting. So there are layers of guardian there, which actually would protect my interest as a consumer.
And we also ensure through enough guardrails that nobody is exploited. It is not that seller can simply escape with the notion that ultimately seller application will have to bear, so I will not do anything, let him bear. No, he will not be able to do that. And because there are enough guardrails and metrics which have been set, who is responsible for what kind of mistake? A proper RCA will be done. That why did the goods not get delivered? It is very easy to find out who is at fault, right? It's not that complex. It is complex. I'm not denying that, but it's not that. It's a solvable issue.
Especially in the digital world. We all have data where things are missing.
There's an audit trail. And I believe that all these are a very, very short-term problem, Ankit. These are not a long-term problem. Why? Because at the end, there's something called social audit, which is there on ONDC network. Ultimately, there's a seller rating, which is stored on ONDC network forever. Irrespective, if you leave a seller application A and join through seller application B, your rating of seller application is still with the network. Network will aggregate and show to the buyer application what is the seller of rating of this seller.
Got it.
Today, if you fool up in application A, you can simply exit and go in application B and still sell your product and do frauds there. In a network-based approach, you will not be able to do that. So the social audit score is powerful enough to throw a fraudster out of the business.
Interesting.
So that's a very, very short-term timing issue. Nothing more than that.
Got it. And I think it might be just very, very rare hiccups that might come up, but it'll be very rare because if there is a trail of everything and there is a clear penalization defined and clear long-term social credits kind of system defined, it will not let any scamsters come into the network in the first place.
In a platform-centric approach, it is still possible to some extent because everything is happening in closed door and silos. In an open world, you can't do anything.
Absolutely.
Can you do a fraud in a garden? You can't. You can do a fraud in a small house. You can't do it in a garden.
And there's a very important aspect to it as well. So often now, when in other systems, say other e-commerce or marketplaces, what happens is the platform's focus is still on earning revenue. So he might not blacklist somebody who's giving him revenue even though
नीचे कर देगा उसको.
वो नीचे कर देगा, दबा देगा उसको, है ना? वो क्योंकि उसे लगा धंधा तो ये दे रहा है ना, कुछ गड़बड़ कर रहा है, ठीक है चलो चलता है. We never can trust. यहाँ पर because you are the guardian who have no vested interest apart from enabling MSME, this is going to be very naturally powerful. which is so deep, insightful, I think. So well thought about. I mean, these many aspect of it is so well thought about. आज एक seller है, एक merchant है, उसके लिए ONDC क्या है? उसके लिए क्या मतलब है ONDC का?
हाँ, so एक step और पीछे लेते हैं कि what is ONDC? Let's go back to the original question. Let's complete that flow once. So ONDC is nothing but a set of APIs which is missioned to increase discoverability on both the sides for the buyer as well as seller. वो ONDC का fundamental objective है कि sellers को more and more visibility दिए जाए to sell their product. On the buyer side, the objective is that buyer gets access to more number of supply and more number of assortment. What happens in a platform centric approach is that the supply is limited. Today, 90% of business houses in India are MSME. While
absolutely
the penetration on the digital commerce is less than 5%.
Achha.
That means majority of the MSME have still not been able to, or majority of the business houses in India have still not been able to capitalize on the benefits of digital commerce.
Interesting.
Why that happens? Because the platform-centric approach has got an inherent tendency or an inherent mandate to control the supply. So they will have preferred sellers.
Got it.
They will, and even those preferred sellers, even if a seller is not preferred, the existing sellers will have to pay very high margins or agree to a one-sided terms and condition. Now, lot of players are unable to match this, and hence they step out. Now imagine a Paharganj mein, if somebody is selling a sari, if you ask him to give 30% commission, he can't afford that. He doesn't make that margin in the value chain. On top of that, you mandate him that if a customer returns within 30 days, you will have to take that product. Now, we know that in India, fashion industry in digital commerce have actually become a changing room. People buy the product, people use it for 1 or 2 days, go to a party and they will return it back. Now, what will that Paharganj seller do? What if he doesn't want to take back the return? The application will not allow him that option to not take that return back, because these people are selling their product on the basis of return policies. So ONDC is democratizing this and trying to break this rent seeking tendency.
Interesting.
We are saying any seller can join ONDC and we will help you do the demand generation. The network will do the demand generation for you. So what is again ONDC? A set of common APIs which is unbundling various components of digital commerce and making it interoperable. ONDC also fosters deep innovation, because ultimately when the democratization happens, the competition will become even more intense. People may not have moat in their individual businesses. At the same time, it also fosters every business houses to go deeper and do and be excelling in the area where they are expert. For example, is Amazon the best logistics service provider in the world? Maybe not. Maybe yes, maybe not. But I believe DTDC will always have an edge, or say India Post will always have an edge, because their supply and their penetration or their geographical spread would be much, much higher. Right? We say that why should Amazon worry about, or say Flipkart or any buyer or application should worry about logistics at all? Leave it to them. If you are good at doing demand generation, just focus on that. If an application is very good at bringing supply on board or solving cataloging as a problem statement, just do that. Somebody else will take care of that. Today, what happens that if I have to go into e-commerce as an individual, if I want to launch my company, I'll have to solve for all the bits. I'll have to solve for a search engine. I'll have to solve for cataloging as a service. I'll have to solve for supply chain management. Everything I'll have to solve. I can't do that. I don't have so much of capital, nor do I have an expertise. And why should I solve for a problem which somebody has already solved? Why not use a community-based approach कि सबने सब कुछ solve कर लिया, आओ मिलके धंधा करते हैं ना? That is ONDC.
Absolutely. So अब मैं एक बार रिफ्रेश करने की कोशिश करता हूँ इस तरह से. ये एक नेटवर्क है जहां पर एक तरफ बहुत सारे बायर्स हैं, एक तरफ सेलर्स हैं. सेलर्स के लिए सेलर्स ऐप्स हैं, बायर्स के लिए बायर ऐप हैं. मैं एज अ सेलर कोई भी एक सेलर ऐप से जुड़ता हूं और मैं इनमें से जो भी ये बायर ऐप है वहां तक पहुंच पा रहा हूं without really registering in every buyer app.
Absolutely. You don't need to register to any of the buyer app.
मैं एक सेलर हूँ, मैं एक मैन्युफैक्चरर हूँ, मैं कोई बिजनेस हूँ जो एक प्रोडक्ट बेच रहा हूँ. मैं कोई भी एक सेलर साइड ऐप से कनेक्ट करता हूँ जिसमें मैं अपने प्रोडक्ट को रजिस्टर करता हूँ. और क्योंकि ये पूरा नेटवर्क है ONDC का, मैं किसी भी एक सेलर ऐप के थ्रू मैं सारे बायर ऐप तक पहुंच सकता हूं. इसका मतलब है जो एंड कस्टमर है वो किसी भी बायर ऐप से आ रहा है, वो स्टिल मेरे प्रोडक्ट को ढूंढ पाएगा. क्या ये सही है?
एब्सोल्युटली. सो आज के दिन पे प्लेटफॉर्म सेंट्रिक अप्रोच में क्या होता है, जो कि एक क्लोज्ड वॉल्ड गार्डन इकोसिस्टम है, वहां पर यू नीड टू गो एंड रजिस्टर विद एवरी एप्लीकेशन एंड अग्री टू देयर इंडिविजुअल टर्म्स एंड कंडीशन. द पावर ऑफ डिसाइडिंग टर्म्स एंड कंडीशन इज नॉट विथ यू इन अ प्लेटफॉर्म सेंट्रिक अप्रोच. इन अ ONDC environment, what happens? Seller can get registered with ONDC network through any of the seller application. Today we have got around 70 seller application already live on the network, operating in 11 domains, right? So you can join through any of the seller application.
Interesting.
The question will be, how do you identify कि ONDC का कौन सा seller application आपको as a customer कैसे पता चलेगा?
as a merchant मुझे कैसे
as a merchant कैसे पता चलेगा? दो तरीके हैं उसको पता करने का. ONDC के वेबसाइट के ऊपर सारे सेलर एप्लीकेशन का पूरा डिटेल दिया हुआ है कि कौन सा सेलर एप्लीकेशन किस डोमेन में है एंड वहां का कॉन्टैक्ट पर्सन कौन है. यू कैन सिंपली पिक अप योर फोन, कॉल दैट पर्सन, ही विल हेल्प यू डू दैट जर्नी.
अच्छा.
There's a ONDC सहायक, a WhatsApp chat bot where you just type a hi and that will take care of your journey. Whether you have to register, you have to not register. I will take one more example on this. Let's keep that aside for a minute. Now, when the seller joins ONDC through one of the seller application, he is free to decide his terms and condition at a transaction level, not even at a application level.
इसका क्या मतलब?
इसका मतलब ये होता है, आज अगर आप मान लीजिए मिंत्रा पे एज अ सेलर एप्लीकेशन जाते, एज अ सेलर जाते हो, सो मिंत्रा के हर ट्रांजेक्शन पे आपका एक स्टैंडर्ड टर्म्स एंड कंडीशन हो गया कि 30 दिन में रिटर्न लेना है, 40% मार्जिन देना है, पेमेंट 7 दिन में आएगा, कंप्लीट, राइट? यू गो टू से Ajio फॉर दैट मैटर, मे बी 45 डेज रिटर्न लेना होगा, 30% मार्जिन लगेगा, एवरीथिंग, राइट? सो योर टर्म्स एंड कंडीशन आर एट अ प्लेटफॉर्म लेवल.
Yep.
In a ONDC network-based approach, you can decide at a transaction level. That means if I'm selling a product to say Ram in Gurgaon, I will decide a term for that particular transaction only. I can decide कि मैं राम से 30 दिन में रिटर्न लूंगा और 20% कमीशन चार्ज करूंगा, while श्याम से मैं 40 दिन तक रिटर्न अलाउ करूंगा, 10% कमीशन चार्ज करूंगा.
इंटरेस्टिंग.
शाम से कुछ और करूंगा. So that's called transaction level contract.
Oh wow.
That also brings to me a very important question. That network चलेगा कैसे? अगर एक सेलर एप्लीकेशन के थ्रू अंदर आ गया, बट बायर एप्लीकेशन के तो सबके अलग अलग टर्म्स एंड कंडीशन होंगे. What will he have to go and negotiate margin with each of them? That's not possible. Because ONDC eventually will bring millions of buyer application and millions of seller application and billions of sellers. So how will this exactly work? Scalable नहीं है model. And if a seller has to interact with every buyer application ultimately, then he has no motivation to come on the network. And will he have access to larger players? Right? A small customer, individual Paharganj customer, have to deal with say Reliance ka Find app. He will not even get access to Reliance's office, right? And pretty obvious, they will not want to deal with a very small scale. And hence comes a concept, new concept called TLC. Transaction level contract. How does that work? When a buyer, taking my original example of Domino's Pizza, when a buyer goes to Ola as a buyer application and searches, I want to buy a pizza, Ola makes a packet of information which says, Rahul in Gurgaon wants to buy a cheese burst Domino's pizza. For this, as a buyer application, I will charge 2% commission. This information gets stored into a package and then goes to a ONDC gateway. Ola का margin fix हो गया इसके ऊपर. Now, ONDC gateway passes on this packet to all the seller application. That there is a person in Gurgaon called Rahul who wants to buy a pizza, for which Ola wants 2% margin. Do you want to participate in this deal? Do you have inventory and do you want to participate in this deal? Now, seller application adds one more information to the same packet.
ठीक है.
That I want to add my margin at say 5%.
अच्छा.
Because seller application also want to earn money, right?
Yep.
So in the same packet, he will add his part of the information that I want to add earn 5% margin.
अच्छा.
So now the information package contains Rahul in Gurgaon wants to buy a pizza for which Ola will charge 2% margin. One seller application, say Go Frugal or say You Engage for that matter, will charge 5% margin. And this packet will now get communicated to all the sellers on the network. Right? Now,
Interesting.
Seller can decide if this transaction makes commercial sense to him. If there's a price parity, उसको अगर पड़ता बनता है, तो वो पार्टिसिपेट करेगा या वो नहीं पार्टिसिपेट करेगा. मानिए इसमें से 10 सेलर, नेटवर्क है सम 6 लाख सेलर्स टुडे, 10 सेलर को पड़ता है कि चलो मैं 2% और 5% मार्जिन देने को राजी हूँ. 5% सेलर एप्लीकेशन को, 2% बायर एप्लीकेशन को. आई विल पार्टिसिपेट इन दिस डील. And then this packet goes back as I explained earlier.
Interesting.
So the question which you asked, that seller के लिए life कैसे बनती है? Coming back to that, seller can join network through any of the seller applications. Some 70 seller applications are already live on the network, and a lot of them are in pipeline in various domains. And he has the power to decide the terms and conditions which he wants. Seller can also do the reverse. He can give a static instruction to the network that for every deal, I am ready to give only 5% margin. Okay. Seller application, this 5% will get distributed between buyer application and seller application. If somebody wants more margin, collect it from customer. Acha. For example, I am giving 5% margin, but the buyer application wants, say, more money. He's free to charge platform fees or any form of incremental fees from the buyer. And if buyer wants to participate in this deal, it is his choice. अगर उसको महंगा लग रहा है, no problem. Commerce में price disparity always आएगी. What happens, or what we have seen traditionally, that margin in a platform centric approach, which I always call is rent seeking tendency, is already so high that in a network based approach, when nobody has got a vested interest in a common pool, margin naturally dilute हो जाता है. In a food industry, I have worked with Zomato for some time. I have seen that food ecosystem industry charges somewhere around 20 to 22% margin. While in a network, we are seeing this margin reduced to 8% only. 2% a buyer application is charging, 5% a seller application is charging. I'm giving these average numbers. I mean, these will vary from transaction to transaction. तो ये जो 12 से 14% का डेल्टा आ गया, everybody is milking this. The seller is retaining certain margin. Some he is recouping it back to the industry or by giving discount to the customer. Sure. Seller gets benefited because he has more margins now, because he's not required to give 20% margin. He's required to give only 7% margin plus some bit of discount, which direct customer access. Customer को naturally वो सस्ता पड़ता है. क्यों? क्योंकि जब वो 20% मार्जिन दे रहा था तब अपने प्राइस में लोड कर रहा था. आज उस प्राइस में सिर्फ 7% लोडेड है. प्लस उसके ऊपर कुछ डिस्काउंट लग गया, और क्योंकि सेलर के पास ज्यादा पैसे हैं डिस्काउंट देने के लिए, नेट कस्टमर को माल सस्ता पड़ता है. Interesting. That's the value proposition which ONDC as a network brings. Interesting. Why should a buyer or a seller come on the network at all? What is the value proposition for them? Yep. That's the value proposition. Yes.
So, Anjani, e-commerce कितना बड़ा है already India में?
Digital commerce, I believe, is around, my estimate is around $70 billion currently in India.
Acha.
And by 2030, we expect that it should reach to around $100 billion. And incremental $100 billion. And this is what I think ONDC will have the most important role to play to open this economy up.
और ONDC मतलब आज के टाइम पे कितना transactions हम already देख रहे हैं? What is the expectation in next 2-3 years of time?
Any guesses on the numbers?
I would probably say, few thousands every day maybe.
Yeah. So we were doing few thousands transaction almost 1.5 year back, right?
Acha.
So in January 2023, when we started our journey, we did 1,000 transactions total in the month of January 2023.
Okay.
last month we closed at 12.5 million transactions.
12.5 million transactions.
Yeah, and we started with just 2 domains, the most difficult ones. That is the food and the mobility. Mobility basically is around ride-hailing services. Complexity, those 2 are the most challenging domains to start with. For a couple of reasons. One, they were highly penetrated from a digital commerce standpoint of view. Larger players have already cracked the playbook there, and we chose to solve for that, the most complex one first. Also, food brings a natural complexity around how hyper-local logistics, very, very complex to solve for. And we were of the belief that if we can solve these 2, then ONDC will be very easy to do. My sense says that we have cracked the playbook there. Today, we are operating in 11 domains, and many more are already in the pipeline. Agriculture domain is something very close to heart to me. And today, the digitization in agriculture domain is less than 1%. And we believe that ONDC is the route through which these people the farmers and the FPOs can actually come on digital network. A lot of private players have tried digitizing agriculture ecosystem, but they have failed for some reason or the other. But at ONDC, we are confident because we are approaching the problem in a very different way and solving at the grassroots level. And once we digitize agri ecosystem, it will benefit many, many players and truly uplift the livelihood of farmers who will be able to earn more. They will be able to charge the right price, discover the right price for their produces, and they will not have to dump the surplus stock because they do not ride the
real big problem.
Today farmers actually dump
it's
the
such
surplus
a
stock.
sad scene always to see. You know?
Either they do not have the right warehouse, or they do not command the right price, and they are left with they are unable to find the buyer, and hence left with no other choice than to dump it. ONDC will solve for all these. Today, a farmer will be able to secure warehouse on ONDC network. They will not have to go and scout for it. It will be available to them digitally, right? And also, I am also very, very positive about one more very interesting domain, which is financial services, wherein we are trying to sachetize and democratize insurance, mutual fund, personal loans, right? Working credit capital line, right? Working capital credit lines. All these are very, very important from a B2C, because from a B2C, personal loan is important to keep the cash flow in the economy and keep it running, while credit on the B2B side is very important because business happens on credit lines. And today people do not get access to these. Either the rates are very high or the minimum ticket size is not met. On ONDC network, you will be able to invest in mutual fund for as low as ₹5. And today, as we speak, you can get a personal loan on ONDC in less than 5 minutes.
Amazing.
Everything is digitized, right?
Wow.
We believe that this is, while one, it will democratize the market, it is also very important and critical for Indian economy, because it will promote financial literacy as well as financial inclusion. And once this gets successful, we are in the build-up stage for this. Protocols have been built up and enabled. We believe that this can be a game changer for ONDC also.
Amazing, right? Amazing. And what are the numbers we are talking about in today's date?
Yeah, so today, as I said, that we do almost 12.5 million transactions per month. We aspire to reach 100 million transactions in almost no time. We today have a robust pool of around 6.5 lakh sellers and service providers on the network.
6.5 lakh sellers
and service providers on the network. In fact, that number is, to be precise, it is 7 lakh plus. Not
it's like increasing time to time. Like next second you'll say it's like 7.5 lakh.
So it's actually more than 7 lakhs as we speak. These sellers are based out of 600 odd cities, delivering to 1200 plus cities.
Wow.
And we truly are delivering from Kashmir to Kanyakumari or east to west. Entire geography of India is being covered. And in fact, when I was seeing the data last month, when we closed the month, we saw that extreme geographies of northeast or upper side of India, say Leh, Ladakh, Jammu, Kashmir, or extreme end of Coimbatore or Kanyakumari, we are getting a lot of orders from there, right?
Wow.
If I recall well, Jammu Kashmir did some 2 lakh orders last month, right?
Interesting.
Right, while the northeast states cumulatively did around 4 lakh orders. Right? So that's the power of network. These people who were not being able to capitalize on the benefit of digital commerce, either due to lack of assortment or lack of logistics, is something which is getting democratized now. Out of the 11 domains which we do currently, 4 to 5 domains such as food and beverages, grocery, retail vouchers, mobility, and on-network logistics as a service is already doing more than 1.5 million transactions per month. We have seen very, very interesting use cases wherein, for example, Magic Pain, one of a early mover network participant who had the first conviction that ONDC will be a great success, and he was very right, I guess. They were originally a deal discovery platform. They ventured into food delivery ecosystem on the back of ONDC, and we saw them growing 370x in less than 1 year.
Amazing.
Right? So their P&L and their path to profitability is becoming better. We saw Ola, who had ventured into food delivery ecosystem through various routes at least thrice, and did not had a success. But we are able to see that where they have ventured into food delivery once again through ONDC and are doing fantastic. As I said, Bangalore ONDC today has almost 20% market share.
Wow.
Right? Ola is able to leverage its power of network, its power of footprint across India to enable logistics as a service. Very unique use case that anybody can buy sachetized logistics. Today, if a small seller has to buy DTDC logistics, they cannot buy it directly from DTDC. They will not get a right rate. The rates will be significantly higher because they will have to buy from local aggregators. But today the smaller seller can come and buy logistics directly from the network, directly from the end supplier. So if I were to give you example on the numbers, through my experience, the cost of delivering food for 5 kilometers in a platform-centric approach is hovering around 40 rupee to 50 rupee.
Yeah, that's typical, what I've heard.
On ONDC network, for 7 kilometers, the rate is flat 25 rupee. Almost half.
It's like less than half probably.
Yeah. So that's the benefit which ONDC brings. We have seen very, very new age players such as Pidge coming on the network to supply or solve for logistics, right? Through their proprietary engines on artificial intelligence. So all these together, I believe, would be a game changer for India.
Absolutely.
More so from the numbers point of view, what gives us joy at the day end is that smaller players are able to get the same benefits which a large player gets. They get state-of-the-art dashboards to do analytics and build their business. They get state-of-the-art SLAs when it comes to any delivery or any services which they buy on the network. For example, logistics, right? Today, any major logistics player you can think of in India, from India Post to DTDC to Shadowfax to Shiprocket, the new age to the old ages of, say, delivery and DTDCs of the world, Blue Darts of the world, everybody's on the network, right? And it opens up opportunity for everybody. Right? Ultimately, the smaller seller gets benefit because their P&L improves. Right?
Amazing. And what is that you are aiming now? This is already at, you said 12.5 million, 7 lakh sellers. What is that we can see ONDC reaching in, say, next couple of years or maybe 5 years?
For next 1 or 2 years, if I were to tell you, the mission is very simple. That every seller, every size of seller, the bigger ones, the smaller ones, everybody will be on the ONDC network because we have the right value proposition, and I've explained that in the first part of our discussion today. Right? So the seller base will just explode, and the buyers will benefit because they will get more assortment, more options to buy or choose from. On the transaction side, I believe we are aiming for 100 million transactions in immediate term.
Oh,
and
this is in how many years you're thinking?
That's in the immediate term. When I say immediate term, it's actually immediate term. And in the medium term, I think that would be many millions. While in long run, it will be billions, and every transaction will be an ONDC transaction. Given a choice, I think in 5 years, we would aim that every digital transaction should be an ONDC transaction. Right? It's India's transaction. It's not my transaction. Right? Very, very interesting stories are panning out in ONDC network ecosystem, wherein people are inventing new ways of doing business. New business models are...
Can you give me an example?
Absolutely. So if you take an example of cab or ride hailing service, the platforms used to charge commission on per ride basis. ONDC network participants broke the monotony and they came up with a subscription based model. What does that mean? That an auto driver or a cab driver needs to log into an ONDC protocol enabled application as a seller, and he needs to pay a flat 25 rupee to log in on that day. During the day, whatever ride he does at whatever price, all the money is his. What happens in a platform centric approach is that the fare of the ride is decided by the application and the margin money is as high as 30%. So just imagine paying 30% on every ride vis-a-vis paying 25 rupee only one time for the entire day. So we have seen industry moving from commission-based model to a subscription-based model. Right? The market correction has happened to a great extent in this case. Right? We are seeing players like Kiko Live or Polstera who are working very actively to digitize the kirana stores of India so that they do not lose the business to the quick commerce of the world and their business is protected. Because these kirana stores, the general trade kirana stores, first lost a good amount of business to the modern store, modern trade channel. Then they lost business to the e-commerce channel. Now they are losing business to the quick commerce channel. These people need to be protected. These are generational old businesses which will run for generations. This create a huge employment. I believe there are 12 million kirana stores in India. 12 to 13 million kirana stores in India. That's my estimate. And if these people go out of business, generations will go out of business. And it is important to protect them. ONDC is the solution for them. Lot of my teammates are working in various small cohorts in various form with many network participants to handhold, train and digitize these kirana stores so that they can capitalize on the benefit of digital commerce.
Amazing.
Street food, for example, very close to heart project for me.
I mean, what are you ideally saying? I'll get puchkas on, ONDC?
You are already getting puchkas on platform-centric environment even today. You can definitely go and buy puchka and aloo tikki, say bel puri on Zomato even today. But what is important for you to catch over here, Ankit, is from where is that coming? Today, those come from Haldirams and Bikarams of the world. Right? But as a customer, the joy was more to eat the street food. The local player unnamed local player who used to prepare, my next door guy was preparing golgappas or say street charts for me. When these platform centric approach, what happens that they never, enabled or digitize these smaller street food vendors, right? They were always focused on a medium size to large size restaurants, right? Because of which these players lost business, right? We never, 5 years back, we never went to a restaurant and ordered golgappas. Because there was a traditional mindset that golgappas and chaats are to be eaten outside on a street food. While when you go to a restaurant, you have more sophisticated food. But people realize that there's an equal demand for these street food and these restaurants started selling them. These people lost business, right? So, and that we believe is a very important white space, which is important for us to protect business for them. ONDC is doing a pilot with almost 500 street food vendors in Bangalore and in Delhi NCR and Lucknow. Delhi is doing really well, where we have onboarded 300 odd street food vendors who are doing 400 transactions per day today.
Amazing.
Right? So that's the power of network.
Yeah.
And if I can improve the income of these people, net takeaway of these people, I think the job of ONDC is done.
Wow. That's going so deep in the ecosystem. The first thing that when we hear ONDC, does it look like, again, probably an alternative of large commerce businesses, etc. But, to think that it's going deep in the, the ecosystem, enabling farmers, enabling street food vendors, it's like next level of power that you're opening up.
Yeah, it is not a alternate, but it's a complement to what's already happening in commerce today, right?
Yeah.
ONDC will not eat away market share of anybody, right? These are incremental businesses at the day end.
Yeah, you're enabling, because you're enabling the long pyramid, the bottom of the pyramid, which wasn't part of the whole ecosystem.
Absolutely,
earlier.
the cannibalization will happen in the initial time, right? When we kickstart this, and whenever the first level of transaction starts happening, there will be a certain level of cannibalization, right? But this will settle down when we reach a basic threshold level.
Got it.
And then, the competition will be more around between the players around innovation. And commerce should be on innovation, right?
Yeah,
it should not be on monopoly.
Absolutely.
That's the power of network.
And, you spoke about domains, you mentioned food, you mentioned mobility and other domains. What are the domains that is already implemented? What are the domains that you're looking forward in next 1 year?
Yeah, so some of the domains which are already enabled on ecosystem today, if I were to take in the mobility space, you can book cabs, you can book autos, you can book metros, you can book buses on ONDC network today in almost 10 cities. We are working very actively to create a multimodal transportation for India. That is, you can sit at your house and you can book all the models of ticket through one application, and only one QR code will be there. You can scan the same QR code from your auto to metro station, in the metro station, and for the last mile from metro station back to your office. One QR code will solve for everything. Multimodal transportation.
Amazing.
Going even beyond that, you can mix one single cart to add your flight ticket, to add your hotel, to add your experiential vouchers, and to book your cab. One single cart, pay, one single QR code is generated that is used everywhere. These models are not something very new to the world. These are already existing in Singapore and European countries. India is just adopting that. So on the mobility front, this is what we are solving. On the retail front, what are the domains we have already enabled? So food, grocery, on-network logistics as a service, retail vouchers are some of the domains which are already doing more than 1.5 million transactions per month. Next on the line is fashion, beauty and personal care, home and kitchen. This entire segment taken together does 1 million transaction, little more than 1 million transaction currently. We are working very actively on brewing or maturing agri, the B2B domain, and the financial services domain. Within financial services, we are enabling mutual fund, personal loan, working capital credit line, right? On the exports, of course, as I said, that exports will be very important for us. On the agri, we are enabling inputs as well as supply side, right? A farmer will be able to buy seeds on the network. He will be able to rent tractor on the network, while he will be able to sell his end crop to the customers through a digital commerce. The entire mandi ecosystem will be digitized completely. And all these are in like last phases of development. I mean, what happens, Ankit, in a new age way of looking at digital commerce, and more specifically in a network based, the growth is never linear. It's a step based growth, right? So things will move, it will stabilize, and then a step will come again. So I expect the next step level growth to come somewhere around December, from 13-14 million transactions which we will be doing currently, which we are doing currently. Around December, I think one more step jump should come. Very interestingly, we are seeing devotional commerce having a play on the network, spiritual commerce having a play on the network. Today you can buy an ISKCON Prasad from ONDC network.
Oh, wow.
It will deliver fresh straight to your house. You can book you will be able to book puja sitting at your house from an ONDC application, ONDC enabled application to any of the devotional places, right? We are seeing very interesting participants joining the network. For example, media houses, they are joining the network to sell product. Their media houses are joining as a buyer application because they already have a huge customer base. Right?
Yep.
So, for example, Dainik Jagran Group, they have launched an application called Khojle on ONDC because they will, and they have enabled all the domains of ONDC. Their customer, the subscriber of Dainik Jagran newspaper, will be able to buy goods and services using Dainik Jagran's Khojle application from the supply base. More than 3 crore SKUs are available on the network currently. Right?
Interesting.
We are seeing active participation from media houses, of course. A lot of FMCG players, a lot of D2C player will be able to encash upon benefits of ONDC. There was a very famous brand which had come on Shark Tank 3 also, Zoff Spices.
Okay.
Right? They are doing a very meaningful business on ONDC today. So we are helping people change the business dynamics. Whenever I meet a brand or a client, I always say them that if your growth path is for 5 years, ONDC has a potential to half it. In 2.5 years, you'll be able to achieve those numbers very, very easily.
Amazing. That's amazing. I think had a wonderful insights around the whole ONDC concept, Anjani, from you. I think most of the concept even I was not aware where I've been working closely, I've been seeing this closely, but even I think a lot of this which I learned today is like fresh for me. It's like a lot refreshing for me at the first place. I see it's like probably much bigger than the UPI movement itself. UPI enabled one part of it, but this is like opening up the whole plethora of opportunities for everybody to open. And the rate at which India is actually going digital is like so beautiful to see. It's like so powerful to believe upon. And ONDC is just probably going to be another rocket, in the whole journey. It's another booster in this rocket ship called India. Thanks for all your insights. Thanks for all the amazing, points that you shared. I love the discussion. I hope you even enjoyed sharing these with our audience today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Ankit, for hosting me for such a intense discussion. And what I realized that during this conversation, many more new ideas came to my mind, how I can open up ONDC even more faster. And going back home, I'm going to pen down all of them and it's going to be fun.
Oh, wow. That's so lovely to hear, Anjani. It's like always thinking, always on this think mode that what do we build next? What do we do next? That's what is probably building ONDC what it is today. But
absolutely. The more you discuss, the more new idea comes.
Yep. But thanks Anjani. Thanks a lot for being here today. I love the whole discussion. I hope our guest really enjoyed this whole conversation as well.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks for hosting me, Ankit. Thank you for everybody for listening to me.